Welcome to the Take 92 podcast. My name is Sammy Warm Hands. I'm your host, and today I'm really excited to have the guitarist and primary songwriter, aka head dreamer, as he calls it, from one of my very favorite punk bands, a Wilhelm Scream. My guest is Trevor Reilly. We're going to talk about their body of work, working with Nitro Records, working with Bill Stevenson and Jason Livermore, Andrew Berlin at the Blasting Room, and what they've got coming up for their next record. This is Trevor Reilly.
Hi, you've reached Trevor. I can't get to the phone right now. Leave a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
That's hilarious. I went straight to voicemail. I'm putting this on the show. This is Sam at the Take 92 podcast. I just texted you a few seconds ago, so I'm going to try and call you again here.
Hello?
Hey, man. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing, Sam?
Good.
Going good?
I went straight to voicemail. That was hilarious.
Nice.
God, we've been trying to put this together for so long. I'm stoked that we finally got to sit down and chat.
Oh, yeah, me too, man. Yeah, I listened to some of your other episodes. Really, really cool podcast.
Oh, badass, man.
Getting into, listening to podcasts and stuff like that, so it's really cool stuff.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I've always loved, behind the scenes stuff, whether it's like documentaries or books or even just, you grow up reading the liner notes, the CDs you buy and or like if my band would put out a new album and get on like a local radio station or something, I'm always like, this is fun. I didn't expect to be doing it, 4 years and 60 some episodes into it. So I'm glad that it's taken me this far, getting to talk to guys like you.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Congratulations, man. That's quite an accomplishment. How many episodes did you say?
This is number 64.
Wow. Holy shit, man. That's
I think my goal when I started, was 6. I wanted to do a few and just see how it felt, but it's been more and more fun that I started calling people, because I used to only do it in the studio, and it's or I'd bring my stuff with me on the road, and it's really opened the doors, just being able to call folks, all over the country and have these conversations that would have not occurred otherwise.
Oh, yeah, man. It's a great world we live in, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Marvel's owned by Disney now. Star Wars owned by Disney.
Oh, man. I was just... you just brought me back to 15 minutes ago. I was listening to a podcast on the way home called Real Blend. They were arguing over this question: if one had to go, which would you pick to have never existed? Star Wars or the MCU?
Oh, wow.
Right?
Wow. What would you choose?
It's so hard to say, because my childhood is very much Star Wars,
Yeah.
But
now, when you say the MCU,
all the Marvel movies.
Do you mean so just the Marvel movies?
Yeah, I mean you wouldn't count the X-Men movies
the comics can stay.
Or the Spider-Man movies. Yeah, just the MCU, like the 23 or whatever movies that they've had. Because
okay. Oh, then you pick Star Wars. Yeah, you got to take Star Wars then.
I mean, I would think
Star Wars survives.
I would think so too.
If not for Star Wars, we don't have the Matrix. We don't have we don't have tons of stuff, but we don't have Star Wars.
Well, that's true. I wasn't thinking in terms of influence. I was just thinking in terms of watchability, because you get a lot more watchable movies in Marvel. Because I know people can argue about the prequels, but they're just not as good. Even if you do like them, they're not as good. You've got a handful of really good movies, but they have twice as many on the other team.
Yeah.
So it's but yeah, I think you're probably right with the Star Wars.
Yeah, I really like these new ones that have been coming out, like the J.J. Abrams one.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, me too.
It was all practical effects for the most part. Wasn't a bunch of dancing cartoons in the background for no reason.
Yeah, definitely.
All that crazy shit that they added to the other movies. None of that crap is there.
Yeah, they just got the vibe right. It's I'm really into movies. It's a big hobby of mine. And I have a lot of friends that bashed on The Force Awakens when it came out, and I didn't really get it. Really, I thought the only misstep was maybe taking off Kylo Ren's mask too soon. Because, like, when he first shows up, he's so menacing, and he, like, stops the blaster beam in the air, and he's super sinister. And I feel like if he was more mysterious behind the mask, then nobody would shit on him, and he would be, like, Trump Darth Vader. He would, I don't mean, like, I don't mean the president. I mean just the word. But, like, I think he would have he would have outshined Vader. I think he was so menacing. Of course. You know.
Yeah, they took his mask off, and then it's like, oh, it's just like Zemo guy underneath, you know? And you're like, I mean, I like the fact that that's a big part of his character, that he's basically just a misunderstood kid, you know? Like, that kind of thing, a misunderstood kid who had a lot of power, and it corrupted him, you know, for whatever happened in his childhood, whatever longing he has, or whatever. So I agree with you. They could have saved that for, like, probably the second one they did.
Yeah.
You know, if they would have kept it a little more mysterious, and then like do the big reveal. Oh no, he's just like, there's no horrible scarring, or, you know, there's no.
We waited till the third movie for Vader, you know.
Yeah.
They just gave it up too soon.
Maybe they didn't know if they were going to give him a shot, you know?
I hope that with the new one that we get to see some badass, mean fucking Kylo Ren. that's like probably my biggest hope for this one, is that, you know, they've kind of left some ambiguity after The Last Jedi, and I really hope that he goes hard in the dark side direction on this one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and get it, his gang that they keep talking about too is like his crew.
Yeah, well,
like the Knights of Ren.
And supposedly Sidious is back, so we'll see how that plays.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, shit, we
That's
should
a good way
probably
to wrap it up,
should probably talk about music.
I'll talk about whatever you want, man.
Yeah. I
love all this shit.
I was texting some friends before the interview, like, hey, is there anything you want me to bring up, and whatever, and so I'd have some irritated people if I didn't talk about the band at all.
Cool.
When I was walking out here to the studio, and my wife's like, tell him how much I love his band. I'm like, oh, okay, I will.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, man.
No, thank you. Appreciate that.
So usually we go a little bit, I mean, you've heard the show, and then we do a little bit of chronological kind of crate digging through the catalog. Yep. So I'll give you my intro to the band as quick as I can. I was sort of familiar with Smack and Isaiah. I know that my drummer in a high school band, he had at least one of the records, so I kind of knew the name, but I couldn't tell you like a song or something. And then a few years later, I went to see Portland and Eugene shows of Strung Out and Only Crime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so 2004.
That was a fun tour.
I got to the show, and some friends of mine, they had gone to Seattle as well. And they said, oh, you're going to love the first band. They sound like, because I had been in a punk band for years, and then like at that time we had gone like experimental and kind of hardcore. And they're like, dude, the first band you would love, because it's like if your band had kept the experimental but not done the hardcore, like stayed punk. And I was like, no shit. And I listened to it, and there was like little bits. I'm like, oh shit, this is exactly the kind of shit I wanted to make, you know. And so it was exciting to hear that on stage. And I remember, just because I was like 19 years old and up my own ass or something, I remember seeing your set and really liked it, but I felt like you guys were just kind of like standing there. And then I don't remember what your closing song was on the Mute Print tour, but you guys went ape shit on the last song, and then I was like, holy fuck, okay, I'm in. And I remember talking to you guys at the merch table, and I was like, dude, I'm coming to Eugene tomorrow. Like, if you guys play the set like you played that last song, and again, I'm telling you, I'm a dick, but that's what I said. I was like, I am an instant fan of your, like, I'll be a fan of your band forever. I go home and I Google it, and I look up the band, and I see you're on Nitro Records. I'm like, oh shit, I fucking, love AFI and the Vandals and all these great bands. And I look at the album on there, and it says produced by Bill Stevenson at the Blasting Room. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, I'm definitely buying this record tomorrow. And so that was my intro to the band. And of course I bought the album, and I love the next show, and the rest is history, man. 15 years I've been just a diehard fan, constant rotation. I don't know. I couldn't get enough after that.
Oh wow! Thanks, Emma. That's high praise, man. Thanks, appreciate that.
Yeah,
appreciate you saying that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you guys have is a really interesting. It's kind of rooted in melodic skate punk, but usually when you get as technical as you guys are, there's more of like an obvious metal thing going on, or there's like there can be like a shift of like if you listen to bands that come from like pop punk, like Big Wig or even like Sum 41 or something like that, they will just like switch into Metal Gear for a second, and then they'll switch out of Metal Gear and back into punk. And you guys seem to just have this balance of like shredding, but it never feels like, even Propagandhi like has that sort of thrash metal thing, and you guys don't have that. And I can't put my finger on it, you know, but I feel like it's unique to your guys' sound. Maybe you have a better insight to that as to what you guys are going for.
I'm not sure. I know that for like the metal, we're really into like the melodic guitar work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Of a lot of, you know, it's really great stuff. And then of course in the punk scene, you know, there was always like listening to like the Strung Out and No Effects and stuff like that. Like I thought it was so cool because like it just seemed like so like unattainable.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck are these guys doing this?
Yeah.
Like this is like so insane. And just real being in awe of that, you know. I mean, like the fucking the Strung Out album. I think an early one. I don't know if it was their first album, but Another Day in Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being on like a school trip and went to Newbury Comics. We went to a trip to Boston or whatever. And picked up the cassette of that and listening to it on my Walkman on the bus ride home. I'm like, what is this? This is insane. This is like insanity. Like. I couldn't quite make out what the drummer was doing. You know, like Jordan was doing this crazy shit, like boom, 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 and it was like a crazy intro. And then like I was pretty much hooked on that, like right off the bat. Like that really like blew me away. And you know, that was just a good example of like I don't even know what these guys are doing. I just think it's really cool, and you know, I really dig it. You know what I mean? And of course, like I love like tons of other bands, like Face to Face. I mean, you know. I'm sure I'm into all the same stuff that you know you're into, you know. But I think like with our music, like we wrote so much, you know. Particularly when we were younger, like once we were done with an album, you know, when I say album, like you know, Smack and Isaiah, we did a lot of like cassette tape releases and stuff like that. And it was the point where once we were done like recording, like. We already had like 10 more songs ready to go. Like we were really like prolific back then, and I think a lot of it came from just loving writing songs, but also you know trying to do something new every new song we make. You know, so I think we kind of it was easy to get like dissatisfied, you know, with a song. You know what I mean? Like, is this keeping our interest?
Yeah, that was a big thing for me too.
It went harder and harder. You know, it got harder and harder to keep our own interest.
As a musician, at least, because I'm also very prolific. I write a lot, and I release. Some people tell me I release too much, but I feel like you're always trying to one-up yourself, and so it's like you'll be putting out this one record, but the songs I'm really stoked about, like, wait till you hear those ones. You know, like that constant competition with yourself. You know, to get to that next thing, whatever that thing is, you know. You know, you talking about listening to Strung Out and going like, how did they do, you know, you guys have consistently done that to me. Like even now I'm like 20 plus years into this, I still will listen to your shit and just like, I'm not even going to try to figure out what's happening behind this. I'm just going to sing along and enjoy it. like you always keep people guessing, you know, like I'm really big into arrangement. Like Metallica is my favorite band and they do like crazy arrangement stuff. And so I appreciate those qualities, but also you guys will just be almost like the Mars Volta in a way of like everybody's kind of playing something different. Like there's not a lot of unison parts. They're complementary, but they're all different flavors, you know. So there's a lot going on in your guys' songs.
I think part of the way that we make music is everyone adds their own special thing to it.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes that's not what one person maybe intended, but that person could be pleasantly surprised by how different another bandmate took the idea. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this is what I was hearing. It's like, wow, I was thinking completely opposite of that. That's awesome. Let's explore that. You know, I've always got my ear out for that kind of thing, you know, because it's very easy these days, especially as, you know, we've been playing for so long together and we have this kind of working relationship. The guys like the songs I bring, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they want to hear what I got next, you know what I mean? So it's not like it was like when we first started, kind of like back in the day when, you know, when we were in high school and it's like everybody's writing songs and then it's like, oh, well, you know, whose song is going to make it kind of thing, or some kind of pseudo competition kind of a thing. You know, when you're a kid, it's like you're mean to your friends and your friends are mean to you. You know, like you know, there's no bedside manner, you know, to being in a band back then. You know.
Yeah, I feel like my biggest mistake was that we had 3 lead singers. You know, we would kind of switch off, but like the other guys didn't write much, so I was basically the front man. But like, if you listen back to those high school records, it's like I was clearly the songwriter, but like the other guitarist had the voice. I shouldn't have been singing that shit, you know. Like, and you can't see that at the time, you know, because you're like, well, I fucking just wrote this song. It's really cool. I'm gonna sing this one, you know. And like, I didn't realize that like my strength is in, you know, the songwriting and let that guy front the songs because he can fucking take it to the next level. You know, I didn't see that at the time.
Right. My experience completely mirrors that, you know, because like, you know, it's always been in my band. You know what I mean? Like, since we were, you know, 95, you know what I mean? Like, on a lot of that older stuff, like the Spag and Isaiah stuff, it's like we traded off a lot of lead vocals. Just because I was writing so much. Like, I was writing all the time. It's really what gave me the most joy was writing songs, you know?
Yeah.
Still is to a certain degree. It still is one of my favorite things to do, like, once it's done.
Yeah.
You know, while I'm doing it, it's hard as fuck, dude. It's, like, hard. You know, it's, like, really hard to do.
Well, I hit you up earlier, months ago, and you were like, yeah, let's wait till I'm done with the writing, though.
Yeah, that's right. And when I said that, it's not in a weird kind of artsy way or whatever, but it's really, it comes from confidence. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel most confident when I've got like 5 bangers in the bank and I get to work on my weird ones that I love and then back to the ones that I know that the dudes are going to fucking dig in the band.
Yeah.
You know? Once I'm doing that kind of juggling act of all the song ideas and putting them together and feeling good about myself, then yeah, let's fucking talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm not at that level yet, I feel like I don't have the confidence, and it's sort of like, regardless of what I've done in the past, like, it doesn't mean shit. It's like, what can you do now? You know, like, that's how I've always been. I'm very hard on myself, like, in that manner. If what I'm working on, if I don't feel like it's better than the last thing I did, then I'm gonna work twice as hard to make sure that the next song I do is better than the last thing I did. You know what I mean? And
yeah, I think
I won't
that's
rest until I've done that. You know.
there's a lot to be said about momentum in songwriting. You know, like you once you get into a groove. I mean, it could be the same thing for mixing or for, you know, like if you just come off of a tour and the band is about to record, like, you guys are ready because your chemistry is there, your chops are there, like, you know, everything is
right.
already in motion. You know, you just need to capture it. Versus like if you guys are coming in cold, you know, then it's different. You guys got to rehearse and you got to get everybody on the same page. And you know, I definitely feel that way with songwriting.
Yeah, it's totally the same thing with songwriting. It's sort of like the other side of the coin. You know, if you're on tour for 2 months with the band, or even a tour on 1 month or 3 weeks or something like that, like, it's hard to get off tour and then come back home and then jump right on that bike writing songs. You know, it's I wish it was like that, but it's just kind of not like that for me anymore. It's like I gotta really wake up in the morning and be like, man, I'm gonna kill this song today. You know what I mean? And like, really, the only way that, like, that's the only way that I've had success for myself. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like success as in like, oh, this is how I make these hit songs. It's like, no, this is how I make like songs that I like.
Yeah.
You know, whether a lot of people like them or don't, like, my process is the same. It's like I eat, sleep, and drink the song I'm working on that day.
Yeah.
You know, my wife will be like, Trev, did you eat today? It's like, fuck, no, I forgot. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I'll forget to eat food and shit. You know what I mean? And it's really the only way that I can work. I mean, it was kind of like that when I was younger too. Like, you know, with Mutprint and Ruiner especially. When we did our second record, our founding bassist John Tevz was leading the band.
Yeah.
And he gave us like a year notice, you know, and you know, he's just like, listen, I need to go on a new path and stuff like that. You know, he wanted to have a big family and get his shit together financially, you know, to set up his life. So that's my best friend, you know, and he's leading the band, you know. So it was with that record especially, I would be up all night writing songs, you know, and that was my wellspring of confidence. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, because I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. You know, how do you replace this guy? You know, like John was the best singer in the band. Like Nuno will even tell you that. Like John was like probably the most talented out of all of us. Like amazing performer, and you know he's great at arranging songs, working on songs. He was like amazing partner, and he had a great mind for business, and still does, and you know, and all that stuff. So basically, like I'd be at my parents' house, and I'd stay up till like 4 a.m. every day, you know, and I'd go to the Chinese food place and then come back, keep working on songs, you know? Like, I can't do that every year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, like I can do it in spurts, you know, as I've gotten, you know, I've got more responsibilities now than I did back then, you know, but, like, as far as putting out new Wilhelm stuff, the same amount goes into it. That's why, you know, we don't come out with a new record every 2 years because we're writing. There's songs that are going to be on the new album that, like, I've been working on for 3 years.
Yeah.
There's some that I've been working on for 4 years. You know, like ever since Party Crasher came out, there's a couple of those in there. My whole thing is that, well, that ain't good enough. I got to write fucking 8 more that are better than that other one.
Yeah.
And then once it gets out, then it's the perfect record to me. Maybe not the average listener or people in the punk scene, but it's not who I write music for. I write music for myself and for my band.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, you can't be thinking of other people during your process. You know, it really has to be
No, that's the kiss of death.
You are the audience, you know, when you're making the song. And I totally get what you're saying about the John story, too, because, I mean, I played with the same bassist from 98 until 2012, I think. He moved away, and he just had his second kid. And my band... we haven't had a permanent bass player ever since. We've gone to 3 people this year, you know, and it's always, you know, me and the drummer just, you know, I write the songs, we arrange them together, and then we just find somebody who's available to do a little tour, and losing somebody like that who is your foundation can shake you so much. And for me, I'm an addictive personality, and I'm also a bit of a control freak. And so one way I can get back in control of my life is in the studio. And so whether that's working on stuff for the band or my solo shit or 3 different records at one time or whatever it is, if I am creating, then I feel okay again, even when I'm losing this person who's really important to me in not losing, but I mean... our relationship drastically changing, you know, and so I totally feel that we had
like the day-to-day working relationship.
Yeah, like we hadn't put out an LP in quite some time, and then when he left, that's when you see the productivity start to go up, and you know we had a new record out a couple years later. So I totally understand that as like it's your life preserver.
It's the kind of thing when you lose a member, it's sort of like, you know, you don't replace that member. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, here's John Point 2. You try to find the right fit with a new member, and she or he will come with their own uniqueness and their own skill sets or strengths. And if you're a guy like me, you notice that right away and you exploit the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
You know, like when I see like oh shit, all right, like this is Brian's like wheelhouse. Well, booyah! Now like this is great. This is like, for me, it's fun because it's like, all right, well, this is another like color on the palette.
Yes, exactly.
You know, let's see where this goes. And that's what's special about playing with other people in a band, because, you know, everybody comes with their own life experiences, with their own backstory, and, you know, their own way of working, honestly, and their own work ethic that they take with their instrument. It would be so foolish of me, even though I'm the, you know, you can call me like the chief songwriter of the band or whatever, even though I am, it would be so foolish of me to not look for those amazing traits in my bandmates where they can make our shit better.
Yeah.
I learned that lesson, like, kind of the hard way with, like, some friendships, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that really helped in my, like, I'm still in a band, you know what I'm saying? I just turned 40. Like, I'm still doing this, you know what I'm saying? And, like, that's really because of my bandmates, because of what we all do together.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. You know, when you find that chemistry and endure that period of time, it's really, I don't have anything else like it in my life, for sure. I wanted to ask you, in terms of playing to people's strengths and stuff, do you more or less have a finished, arranged song when you bring it to the band, or do you more have like a loose idea and you guys flesh it out together?
My approach is this, like, my bandmates are going to hear my best. For every song that they hear, there's probably two that didn't quite make the cut for that.
Yeah.
I approach it as in, like, I got to sell my songs to these guys. I have to sell my ideas to them.
Yeah.
Because, like I said before, who gives a fuck? Like, nobody gives a fuck what you did in 2005. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody gives a fuck what you did in 2009, you know? Those songs are already finished. You know what I'm saying? Like, I may be the same person that came up with those songs, but what am I coming up with right now? Is that going to make my bandmates stoked? Does it make me stoked? So, yeah, I will employ whatever I got to do to sell these songs to my bandmates for them to genuinely be like, yo, that's dope. So sometimes that means I gotta have my drum beats in mind, because that's going to help sell my melody. You know, sometimes I got to throw a bunch of harmonies on something.
Do you program drums?
Yeah, that's a fairly recent development for us, getting on the MIDI drum tip. The past, like, 3 or 4 years, we've been doing that.
Yeah.
And Nick's really gotten into it, too, and he can, like, come up with beats and write beats and then program them, and then we can essentially have band practice at, like, 1 in the morning at my house. You know
That's
what I'm
great.
saying? And it's like, we're not loud as shit. We're like, we're just on the computer and we're talking about talking about rhythms, and we're talking about ideas and how they work with my melodies, or if I got some lyrics going, how they work with that. Whereas back in the day, we'd get in the jam space and I'd jump on the kit and be like, yo, here's what I'm thinking, because, like, I played drums for many years before before playing guitar, and I played drums in the band for many years. So all my ideas, like, they come from a rhythmic kind of place. Really, it's like, how do I sell my idea to my friends? You know what I mean? Sometimes that is like jumping on the kit. Nick, this is what I'm thinking, and then Nick will jump on it, have his interpretation of what I do, and then we just do that dance. You know, we just kind of go back and forth, and then we just find the cool shit, and then Nick makes it his own.
That's great.
As far as that goes, it's still the same process, but you know, we can work on things on the MIDI tip, and then we get together. And honestly, dude, Sam, it's the same. like Nuno and Nick come over, and, like, we listen to songs, and we just, like, you know, smoke a J, crack a million jokes, usually at Nick's expense. You kind of look around and we're like, dude, this is band practice. This is like band practice. It's 2019.
Yeah.
You know, it's because a lot of it is just like, you know, everyone expressing their tastes. You know, everyone expressing, like, their emotions and how they view the song that we're listening to right now, or the song that we're working on, and we do those ideas right there. That's the same thing we do at band practice, you know. Yeah. So now it's kind of like we can do band practice kind of whenever everybody has time, because, you know, it'd be so busy with life, you know.
Yeah, I'm always interested in how that works, because, like, you know, for us, I write all the songs, and I am a bad drummer. So, like, if I have to lay something down, it is like it's terrible and unlistenable, but it's like, okay, you've heard the pattern. And then and then like when we finally get together, I'm usually like beating on my chest and stomach a lot, like, okay, yeah, now this thing here, and then we kind of hash it out in the room. But I love that you guys are able to sit down and do that even as a group and kind of run it through the Wilhelm prism.
Yeah, it's really important because if we don't do that, I think the songs suffer if you don't. You know what I mean? Like if it was one, like I could physically do it, but then it'd be like a solo thing. You know what I mean? And
yep.
I don't want that. Like not for this band. You know what I mean? Like this band is what it is, and I know that the secret to the songs being cool is that you have get everyone involved, and so they all take ownership in what is going on. You know what I mean? And of course, like, I'm opinionated as hell. I try to work on my bedside manner.
Well, it's your baby.
But, like,
if you wrote it,
let's say, like, I'm like the director of it.
Well, you're producing.
Sometimes it's because it's like, and I get weird with it, man. Like, when I'm talking about a song or talking about a drum beat or talking about, like, a whatever, like, and in this case, like, talking about themes, like lyrical themes that I'm thinking of that inspired me to come up with these ideas, you know what I mean? And then I could talk to Nuno about them. And then regardless of if I end up writing the lyrics or if he ends up, writing a lot of it, we've had that discussion of the song idea. It's fully fleshed out. It's been completely thought through every angle that I could possibly think of without killing the vibe of the original idea. Don't kill the patient, but make sure that you've explored every avenue that could possibly make the song better.
You said a key phrase, too, in ownership. When you open criticism to your bandmates and they are shaping their parts and making it their own, you now have a totally different thing than I've been in projects where I'm the lyricist, there's a guy who makes the music, and we just teach the guys to play the fucking music, and like that is way harder to get people like super committed to the band, to book more shows and be everything that you want them to be as band members, versus when people are actively contributing in the creative process and they feel like, this is something that is theirs too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So that's why I put a lot of pressure on myself when I'm coming up with shit, because if we're going to be working on something, we got to be starting with good field position, let's say.
Yeah, right? Have a good foundation.
Like a sports term. It's got to start off dope. You know what I mean? So, those are the things that I think about during the day. When you get those ideas that just come out of nowhere, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, man, I'm stoked that we live in a day and age where Disney owns Star Wars, and I have a recording device in my pocket at all times.
Yep.
Because it wasn't always like that. Sometimes I had to carry around this big clunky mini cassette recorder to get my ideas out and everything like that. And I was like just that weird guy. But now ideas just sprang into my head. I recorded it. I totally forget I did it, and then later on, I'm listening. Oh, let me listen to my voice memos. Wow, I don't remember coming up with that. Holy shit, that's good. That could make a dope song.
Yeah.
I live for that shit. I fucking live for that shit. Like, that's like my shit. That's my jam. Like, that song idea came out of nowhere. I can't take credit for that shit. It just popped into my fucking head. You know what I mean?
That's what I was doing. I sent you the Dead Fucking Serious record a while back. It came out this summer, and when we were close, I think
you have a bass tone on that.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, that's my SVT2. But yeah, when we had we were getting close. I was going to cap it at 20 songs and then trim it down to the favorite ones, And we had already thrown out a couple, but as we were getting close to that number 20, I was like, "Oh, I need to go dig back through my phone and see if there's anything that I haven't used yet." And man, like, I'm so glad that I did, because like the last 2 songs that we added were killer, and they came from those random ass voice memos of like, holy shit, I have more or less a fully finished song that we just need to run through the DFS filter and write some lyrics, and God, they ended up being like a huge part of the energy and the attitude of the record. And that was all just because it's like, well, we're almost done. Oh shit, I have those notes, those voice memos.
Yeah, a little gemstone, little hidden gems.
It's a little time machine.
Yeah.
I want to change gears just a little bit. We kind of glossed over Mute Print and Ruiner a little bit, but I wanted to ask about two collaborations in all of this, and the first being Nitro Records. What was your experience in working with them?
Nitro Records is a really cool thing, like, especially for us, because, we just spent so many years kind of hitting the pavement, just trying to get our music out there, and, rejected by every label imaginable and stuff. And it's not like Nitro even came out and say, oh, we love you guys. It was sort of like, you know what, we like what you guys are doing, like, let us know what you're up to.
Yeah.
Keep us in the loop, sort of, and it was a fella named Sean Zebarth. Mitch was his partner, and they were the A&R guys. And I think what had happened was they had signed a band called Lost City Angels, who were from Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience working with them, and they're all these cool guys, or whatever, and, good band. And, because Boston has an amazing street punk scene, always has, like Dropkick Murphys probably the most successful of all the street punk bands, but they're like, that's a street punk band. You know what I mean? Like, they have been an incredible one. And, the Unseen and Slapshot, the list goes on, like hardcore music and stuff like that. But we're obviously not quite as hard as, like, a lot of the Boston bands, you know what I'm saying? And we're not a Boston band, honestly. I mean, we're a New Bedford band, but Massachusetts. So, basically, long story short, we kept in touch. We ended up doing Warped Tour. I think it was the 10th anniversary Warped Tour that we did, so we got to travel around with that. Offspring was also doing that particular leg of Warped Tour, and Sean Zebarth came out, saw us play, and he was interested, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. So basically, Jumpstart Records was the label we were on at the time. They're the ones that put us in the studio with Bill and Jason to do Mute Print. So, like, we did the record and sent Nitro some of the stuff that we were working on. They're like, we want this. Like, before we were out of the studio, they had already made arrangements to buy the record from Jeremy, Jumpstart,
awesome,
and sign us up. So we went in the studio at Smack and Isaiah. We came out the Wilhelm Scream, and basically,
that's
awesome
great
experience. I mean, the label was cool. There were like 8 people working there full time, and everybody was super nice and super hard working. They're very professional over there. They had like nice offices and stuff like that. Dexter wasn't super involved with the day-to-day stuff with the label. Like, I never called him on the phone and shit and shot the shit about songwriting or anything like that. Like, nothing of that nature. He was just kind of like the guy that, he made the final call, on things, and he liked what we were about, and they definitely did things in a professional way. They were definitely like, okay, this is what we're gonna go for. You know what I mean? And back then, everybody was nervous about sound scans, because if you didn't, sell X amount of records the first couple weeks, then, it doesn't look good for your album campaign or whatever, to sell records and stuff like that. So
even on that level, they're
time, because it was like record sales were dwindling because of, the world changing,
Yeah. Even on that level, they're that worried about sound scans and opening numbers and shit. They're not thinking like, okay, it's an indie band, we're gonna build them on the road. It's still like first numbers kind of shit.
Well, yes and no. I mean, really, like I think the numbers thing was really. It wasn't like, oh, why are you guys selling it? All these records. It was really like, if you sell a certain amount of records, that could open doors for you. Okay. To get into the markets. Probably a lot of your listeners are young, so they probably don't remember where, it used to be a big deal that you can get your record in a store.
Yeah.
Like Best Buy or something like that. That was like, if you, it was like, oh, if you can get it in there, then it's like, wow, doors could really open for you. For the first record, that was not even, we weren't even thinking that. It was really when the second record came around, Ruiner, where we started really getting noticed for things like that. So we would get played on, like, I don't know, MTV2 or whatever. They'd play our video once or twice, kind of a thing, like that kind of deal.
I mean, to me, that Ruiner is a more accessible record. You know, the production is a huge step up, and it's even more melodic. Like the harmonies are front and center on the record, and just as a fan, I feel like each record got better than the last. But I could see that one could have definitely reached more people, just given the style. Not that it was a major change or anything, but the presentation of it, I felt like was great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I remember Bill and Jason really liked that album a lot while we were making it, you know, and that was cool. And you definitely tell because, like, the record we did after it, Bill didn't like it as much. I think I took a step back, Trev, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, he told me Mute Print was the best one. I'm like, are you, what? No. Like.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, maybe the nostalgia factor of it. I don't really know. It's all weird. I mean, this shit's all the same to me, honestly. like every album's the same to me. Like, it's, you know, just writing a lot of songs. You know, just writing a lot of stuff. You never know how it's gonna be received. You know,
you're in it, and so you're seeing the gradual, the daily progress, whatever. Versus us on the outside. Like, I remember when Ruiner came out. I worked at Guitar Center for quite a while, and you know, there's a lot of us punk musicians work there. And I remember sitting in my car on my lunch break listening to Ruiner with my coworker, who's a great bass player. We're like rewinding the beginning of the song over and over, like, you're allowed to do this? What the fuck? Like, just like arrangement-wise and you know, production-wise and everything was just like, man, this is such a step up. And Career Suicide, for me, is like the holy grail of our style of music. I mean, I really felt like that album, it's probably my favorite Blasting Room sound, first of all. And it's fucking epic, you know? I mean, the horse, like, there's just so many great examples of, like, songs that, I mean, you guys have had this, even back to, like, the rip on the first record or something, where it's like you feel like the song is climaxed, and then it takes it to another level, and then it takes it to another level. But, like, Career Suicide is just nothing but that. It's just all in all the time. And, from the outside, it's like, holy shit, they're stepping up their game again, you know?
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate you saying that. That was definitely a huge group effort, writing that one. We really took it very seriously. Like, you know, 5 days a week, we're putting in 8-hour days because, like, a third record's tough, man. It's hard because, like, you know, like, when you have your first record, even though we've been writing the whole time, you know, it's not like I was, you know, saving up songs and then, okay, let's do New Print. You know, like, we're constantly writing songs before that and during, you know. But the third record's hard because it's like, do we listen to expectations? Do we listen to what we have going on in our musical hearts or whatever? You know, do we follow that? Do we make some sort of statement or something? You know what I mean? It's very difficult. Third record's real hard. First record you have forever to write, you know, theoretically.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The second one, you're riding that momentum. The third one, you have a little time to think about it. So you're in the batter's box, you know what I'm saying? And you're kind of like, you're sizing it up. Maybe a little thoughts are getting in your head of doubt. You know what I mean? That's the third record. Third record's a bitch. You know what I mean? But that's why we took it so seriously. Getting in the jam space, we thought we were writing the best thing we've ever done easily.
You were.
I still listen to that, you know, when I listen to that record, I'm like, fuck, that's cool. You know, that's well thought out.
Yes.
Let's say, you know, like a lot of this shit's well thought out. And it is because we got out fucking dry erase boards and we're like writing out the fucking timing, you know, the timing and the syncopation of things and, like, you know, the notes. Brian's writing out notes. I'm like, yo, what is that? What language is that? You know, it's fucking musical notes, Trev. What's the matter with you? You know, he's like writing out fucking shit because it's Brian's first album with us, you know, so Brian's got a big old chip on his shoulder always, you know, especially when it comes to that shit, because he's so amazing at what he does, you know, so I know he was, like, getting up extra early every day to be like, all right, I'm going to fucking kill it. You know what I mean? And that's what he did.
Oh, yeah.
We all worked real hard on it, man. And, like, going in the studio, I remember one day, is like, ooh, Trev, we took a step back on this one. I'll never forget him saying that. And I was like, yo.
God.
Whoa. Like deflating, you know, while we were recording, you know what I mean? And, and I was like, okay, well, all right, you know.
I think I can get that just from the perspective.
I don't know in what way, but
I mean, I can get that from the perspective of a guy who writes short, catchy songs. A lot about this record was more technical, more over the top, you know, and you guys aren't, even when you have hooky things, I feel like you're not always going for like the perfect rhyme or, you know, the catchiest thing. It's like it's constantly moving around, you know, and keeping you guessing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can sort of guess just as a fan of both of your bodies of work, but God, if you guys didn't absolutely, I mean, like you said, it's so well thought out from every layer, every angle, every player. I mean, it's an impressive piece of work. It's like I said, I really find it to be the pinnacle of, like, you know, if you look at Suffer ushering in this era of melodic punk, and I feel like as a 2000s evolution of it, that there's really no topping something like that.
Damn. Wow. That's
I don't need to make you respond to it. I just mean, like, for me and my friends, like in watching your growth and the things that we look for in songs, you know, from the tempo and the energy and the layering and the musicianship, that was just a really important record to me and my friends, you know.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm stoked on that. I'm stoked to hear that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fucking super cool, man. Yeah. Thanks. I mean, when that whole time period was a really strange one, honestly, because, like, we had been going on this, like, path of, I guess, like, after Ruiner, I think there were some expectations of our band that members of our team definitely had, like our agent and stuff like that. She was expecting something a lot different than what we ended up doing.
Yeah.
And that ended up kind of ending that relationship with her, because she kind of, like, she had to make a decision, you know, to move further into the big leagues, you know what I'm saying, and couldn't really keep a band like us that, what, I guess in her and some people's eyes, that the, well, I'm not going to speak for her. I mean, the expectations was not to make a fast technical punk record.
Yeah.
I think the expectation was to keep going on this Ruiner tip. This, like, I always call it alternative rock, because that's like my shit, right? You know what I mean? That's my shit. Like, more than anything else, like, I love, like, alternative rock music, and I think that record is sort of on that tip, you know, of that side of me, and that kind of thing is, I think, what was kind of expected. You know, something like you were saying before, a little more accessible to people.
Yeah.
I think that's what the expectation was. So it was sort of like, whoa, like, did our career just end? Like, literally. That's why it's called career suicide.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I was going to ask about
it's
that.
It's called career suicide because we wrote this record and, like, it took a fucking sharp turn away from what we thought was the trajectory. But like you said before, Sam, like, when you're in it, you don't know. You're just working hard. You know, you're not thinking about these other things, you know, these outside things. You're just thinking about the music you're making with your friends, you know.
That's fucking crazy to me that on any level that album could be considered a disappointment, because, I mean, it's a natural evolution through these 4 records that you guys have as Wilhelm, the 4 full lengths anyway. Actually, before I skip to Party Crasher, a side note, my longtime DFS member, Ben, wants to know, was there ever a proper release of the B-sides from that album? And if not, can he have them? Because he has a terrible rip of them that we've enjoyed, but we weren't sure if that was ever actually released.
Yeah, Route 40 and 16, and the I Hate Club.
Yeah.
Those are both released. One was on, I don't know which one was which or whatever, but one was on a Japanese-only release of the album, and I think it was I Hate Club that was on the Australian release.
Okay.
They're around. I'll have to, like, look around. Like, I know I have copies of both of those somewhere around here. So
all right,
I'll try to find it so I can get a good copy out there for Ben. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, hook it up for Ben. Okay, so Party Crasher, I want to hit just by saying, holy shit. as the first one in this chronology anyway that is self-produced, and after such a long break and another lineup change, having those 3 records in my collection for so long and really feeling the way that I feel about Career Suicide, I thought, oh, they got some new shit. And then in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, but like, can you really top that record though? I kind of hold them even, but I also think, yes, you did. Like I think somehow even,
Oh, thanks, man.
I think it somehow sounds even better. Like the guitar tone you're able to get on that record, it's like tighter, a little drier. There's something realer about it. I don't know. It sounds like you're in the room when it just cuts to a guitar part by itself for a second. You know, you really feel like you're standing in front of the amp. You know, like I just felt like there was it had that Blasting Room big bombastic sound, but it also had a realism. It was like somehow a little more grounded or something. Man, I really was impressed that you guys pulled that off without the Blasting Room. Obviously, they did a tremendous mix and master on it.
Yeah. Totally.
Take me through that process. This is post Nitro. This is doing your own shit. How did that come to be? Why was that decision made?
Well, I think the decision was made because, like, Mike and I had really started to get into recording. You know, my dad has always had a studio, Black and Blue, in the house, like, since I was a kid and stuff like that. So, like, he's always kind of had it there. And over the years, my dad kind of concentrated on his career with the Postal Service. So he wasn't in the studio as much as he was when I was a kid and stuff. You know, we recorded all the Smack and Isaiah stuff with him, and all our demos for all our records were done there and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a natural thing to like record it there. And my dad was like, "Listen, Trev, like, you know, you should really get into this." You know, I've always kind of dabbled in it and stuff like that. But, you know, my dad was like, you know, you should invest in this and see in the future where, like, recording budgets are not going to be like what they were. You know what I mean? Like, the whole world is changing, industry's changing and everything like that. So, you know, get ahead of it and everything like that. And I didn't know that it would become another obsession for me, but it's been really fun. You know, like, you know how it is. Like, you know, you just kind of like endlessly tireless working on, you know, perfecting your craft, whatever that may be. You know? So, like, back then, like, you know, our live sound guy, James Witten, call him Hoops. He's like a genius, you know, like he audio genius. So like he really helped us out big time, like with the recording and like, you know, to get the tones. And of course, Andrew Berlin did an amazing mix on it. He did a fantastic job, very clean sounding.
I thought it was Jason for the longest time. Only recently did I realize that was Andrew's record. God, it sounds good.
Yeah, he did an incredible job. We weren't really trying to top anything. You know, we were just trying to, you know, get the songs be as good as we had in our minds. You know what I'm saying? And the process of writing it was kind of hard because we're doing the studio thing at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to make sure that the acoustics in the basement are a little bit better this time around, you know, to get the tones and stuff like that. And also, like, you know, learning the craft of recording, you know what I mean? Like legit, you know what I mean? And kind of like teaching ourselves and learning what we can from James. So we're basically writing at the same time, whereas, you know, I'm using both sides of my brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's the analytical and then there's the creative side, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I found so difficult about it, because I'm constantly being pulled in one direction or the other, thinking about, oh, you know, is this the right microphone? You know, or, you know, what's up with this preamp and blah, blah, blah. Whereas my big strength in the band as a band member is the big picture stuff, you know, the creativity and everything, you know, keep dreaming, you know, like, just be the dreamer, you know, the lead dreamer.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what I see myself as in the band, you know, like, I come up with dreams and let's fucking do it, you know what I mean? Let's, what dream do you have? You know what I'm saying? Let's fucking make that shit come true, you know what I'm saying? Like, try to keep positivity all the time, you know, and it's hard to switch that off and then go back to the analytical side and then switch off and go back to the crazy dreamer weirdo guy.
Yeah.
Which I like to be. You know, I like to be the weirdo guy in the back saying, you know, talking in a fucking language that only I can understand half the time, you know, but just trying to be enthusiastic for everyone. That's when I'm at my best with my friends, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can understand that. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've been recording my own stuff for about 14 years now, and I have a lot of friends who are much better engineers than I am because they have the desire to do that. And really, for me, it's a songwriting tool, you know, and I'll take it as far as I feel like it needs to go. But honestly, you know, I found the gear that works for me. I know where my strengths are, and I know when to outsource and, you know, and collaborate to make it better, because really it's just a means of getting the song out of my head and into the world. Like that's how I view it anyway, is that it's just the same tool as a tube is. I mean, this whole studio, whether it's a drum head or a preamp, it's just you know, it's just the way in which to filter the idea into the real band, you know, or on the record. I just, through doing it over time, got to where I felt like I was, you know, confident with it. But it always had to take a back seat to the songwriting and the performance, really, for me.
Yeah, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be killing it in both areas.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, in the years since Party Crasher, you know, the 4 or 5 years or whatever, since that, I've been lucky to be able to work with a lot of other bands, you know, and a lot of it is like mixing, you know, like really getting into mixing, and that's been like a massive passion for the past like 4 years. And a lot of the stuff that I'll get to mix from bands will be stuff that is like, you know, sourced, like, you know, recorded material that was less than ideal recording situations.
Yeah.
You know, acoustically. So really, like, it's sort of like, it's given me a new understanding of, by working with a lot of other people's material on the mixing side, it's given me so much more insight into tracking.
Yeah.
You know, because I know what I know what I need now from a tracking sense to get the audio to be as good as it possibly can be. So that's been a huge thing for me that I didn't kind of see myself as. You know, I've always tracked bands, I've always tracked vocals, I've always done that. Like, I've always been involved in all that and had an ear for pitch and everything like that, and, you know, in production and everything like that. I've always had a knack for that since I was younger. But as far as the technical stuff, the problem solving and stuff like that, that's something that I've, you know, really been obsessed about. But, like, you know, in the years since, and also, like, you know, producing bands and stuff like that, you know, has been great because I can wear more of that hat, because these songs are the band's baby, not my baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, it's my job to help facilitate what they're dreaming of, which is great to have, you know. But then when it comes to my own music, I'm at my best when I'm like weird dreamer guy, like straight up, you know, just like that guy in the back room saying, "No, we gotta add this," you know, stuff like that. So, like, I try to make it like that as well, you know. And on the new record, I'm definitely gonna have that in mind, you know, to get my engineer friends more involved. I can't really talk about our plans right now on a podcast, but, like, the plans I do have, really, I don't know, it's going to be fun. It's going to be like at my new spot in, you know, the new house. Like, it's been all crazy past couple years, you know, my wife and I buying a house downtown New Bedford and renovating the whole thing, and it's been the massive undertaking. But people are like, "Oh, well, yeah, whatever, all this bullshit, when's the new record?" There's so many things that have to happen before the record happens. And, like, in the meantime, I'm not putting out, like, posts about working on it, but I'm working on those songs like a fucking madman. I'm stoked on it. It took me about 8 songs that I thought were okay to finally get to the other 15 that I think are fucking banging, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I couldn't talk to you on that podcast, because like I had those 8 songs that were okay. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to want me as a podcast guest unless I've got like 15 songs that I feel are just like make me proud.
Yeah.
You know? Proud's the best way to describe it, you know, and that's really what I'm in this for. You know, I'm in this to make art and to be proud of it, you know, and my friends. And for all of us to kind of just come up with cool, special shit. Everything else that I've done in the years before our last record, the house renovations, you know, the studying up on studio stuff, gear, acoustics, everything, doing all this, like, has been the carrot, has always been that new record.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I'm finally at a great spot right now where, like, I'm starting to see all the hard work pay off, and like I see a date where we start. You know what I mean? So it's very I don't know. Sorry, I went off on a tangent, but
no, that's great. You've been doing a lot of segues for me. It's been awesome.
Killer.
I wanted to ask you. You mentioned working as a mixer. I was curious with Party Crasher. How do you track drums, having worked at the blasting room with the intent of sending it there, and the sound you're after? Like, is there anything special that you did on Party Crasher, or something you've adopted from working with Bill and Jason over there?
Oh, a lot of workflow stuff. Those guys definitely had a way, and I think just being a busy working studio, they had a great workflow in terms of work is always being done. You know, someone's not feeling well today, like, oh, this just ain't happened. Okay, cool. We'll move on to this then. You know what I mean? Like, we'll do bass right now instead of vocals. You know what I mean? Or like things were constantly always moving. That was a big eye opener to me, because editing was a big part of the workflow. You know what I mean? To keep things moving, nail the takes, and then get the tracks prepared for the next step. That was one thing for sure that I took away from that. And I think just, keeping the vibe good, you gotta keep the vibe good at all times. A lot of times, I think keeping the vibe good is probably the most important job of a producer.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And I think that with Bill's tracking, he's tracking your vocals, but Jason is like the technical guy, in terms of like, he's the head engineer.
Yeah.
Also a producer, but he fills that role of like that guy. And then Bill is kind of like more big picture guy, and also keep the troops engaged guy. I saw a lot of parallels with myself and Mike, because Mike was super into like the technical thing, like the drum editing and, searching for the right guitar cable, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Whereas I'm kind of thinking, well, is this chorus big enough? You know what I mean? Like, should it be big enough? You know what I mean? How does this part relate to the part that came before it? You know what I mean? Like shit like that. Like shit that just is like sort of like jumping from macro to micro, as far as like creatively, in creative terms and stuff like that. And also, getting great takes out of who I'm recording. Like I do all the vocal tracking with Nuno. We have a great relationship that way. And even at the blasting room, they would always call. I didn't want to be in there, but they would always call me in, to clarify things or to offer my input on the vocal, on what was going on with the vocal. I guess that's kind of like those are some things that we learned. I mean, a lot of it was just kind of like, at the same time, we're really concentrating on what we're doing, because we're not there to just like, oh yeah, let's fucking chill out and make a record. No, we're there to like kill it, like that's the reason why we're there, because if not, then, why bother if you're not going to like really go into the situation wanting to take no prisoners, like, so
I
that's
agree.
something that we do too, like that's attitude that we take into it.
with the new record, I don't know if you're comfortable talking about this or not, but since you have now had a few years of mixing experience, do you intend to do this one fully yourself, or still work with the Blasting Room guys on the post-production?
Well, we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure. I think some of that will be sort of dictated on how involved I am with the engineering of it.
Yeah.
If I'm wearing a lot of hats in here, I might need to step away at the end of it. But also keeping in mind that mixing is what I've spent the most time doing, or the most time working on and studying and putting into practice for the last 4 years. So my mind is usually there as well, but really it just kind of comes down to where I'm at the end of the recording process. You know what I'm saying? Because I might be ready to just be all right, that's all my energy. You know what I'm saying? Or I might just be riding a high at the end of it. That's the plan, to be riding high. Being fuck, that was fun. That was great. Let's take a couple weeks off and then start mixing this thing. You know what I mean? But it's probably a little too premature to kind of make any concrete plans. But I've definitely got every possibility I've thought about thoroughly.
Yeah.
So I'm just silently, quietly putting the team together. There's a lot of crazy shit going on in the Wilhelm camp these days. So
nice.
I think a lot of news is going to start coming out, and some of it will be very strange to people, I think, and some things are going to be oh, cool, we'll think you're cool, but...
Can we get you out to Oregon sometime? I haven't seen you in 15 years.
Oh, yeah, man. I can't wait to get back out there. What part of Oregon are you in again?
I'm in Eugene.
Oh, yeah. My buddy Eric Vazina was in Eugene for years. You guys from Capgun Suicide?
What? Yeah, my bass player Ben, I talked about. I
love those dudes.
He's in Capgun Suicide.
Oh, tight.
They just remixed their whole final EP that they made before they broke up, and just kind of dumped it on the internet recently. I'll have to send it to you.
Awesome. Is the drummer, is that Jesse?
Yeah. Dude, I've been playing with those guys since I was in high school.
Many toys. He's got a dope house out there in the middle of nowhere, and just every toy imaginably. We had a lot of great time staying with him.
I should show you what's surrounding me in this studio I'm in. Is just full of my Batman toys.
Nice.
But yeah, man, I've known those guys forever.
I love Eugene. It's cool place.
Rad.
Yeah, we'll be back there with once the new album's done. We'll be all over the place.
Well,
for sure.
I would love to see it.
Be careful what you wish for, man, because it's going to be a lot of us. You're going to be sick of us soon.
No, let me tell you, I just bought a new car stereo before DFS went on tour because the deck froze, and so it was stuck on an iPod playlist that I couldn't change. And so for a month, for a month, I listened to nothing but those 4 albums on loop over and over and over again. And the funny thing is, God, I never got tired of it. I just.
Oh wow, you picked the right records, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's just your 4 albums in order, but I just it was
my 4. Our 4.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it was stuck on the Wilhelm playlist, and there were times I couldn't even change the volume. It was just on for a month, and I had to get rid of the stereo because I couldn't do that to my bandmates when we're on the road. We got to change it up on those.
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you.
Long drives, but no, I listened to your shit a month straight, nonstop, and I loved it.
That's funny. Very cool.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you taking the time, and especially with our time zone difference and you staying up late for me.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's my pleasure. It's awesome chatting with you. Thanks for having me on the show.
God damn, that was a good time. Shout out to Trevor for sitting down with me and geeking out about songwriting and Star Wars and stuff. That was really fun. And, like I said, a band that I've loved for a really long time. So thanks again to Trevor for doing that. And if you like the show, please subscribe to it. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Share it in your stories. Put it on your socials. Help me spread the word. If you are a first-time visitor here, you can check out some of my recent episodes with similar guests. Bill Stevenson from The Descendants. We talked about the Blasting Room Studios. Russ Rankin from Good Riddance and Only Crime. Talk with Ryan Green, a producer for a lot of Fat Records bands. And I've got all kinds of underground guests as well. Producers, rappers, bands, you name it. I'm going to leave you with the track, as we always do. There's going to be a little surprise at the end, so there's going to be a little something extra this time. But I'll leave you with a track from the previous Wilhelm album, Party Crasher. We talked about how Ruiner had the best hooks and the catchy aspect for wide appeal. We talked about how Career Suicide had the technical prowess, taking everything to the next level in musicianship. But I feel like I didn't get to say this. Party Crasher is the marriage of those two things. It's a fully realized band and sound. So we're going to take you out with Iceman Left a Trail, and then I'll have a little surprise for you at the end. This is a Wilhelm Scream. Okay, I told you there was more. I wanted to shout out Emily from Excuse Me Mister and Punk Detente. I think that's how you say it. She's got a French-Canadian punk rock radio show and featured Dead Fucking Serious on there. And we were chatting one day about how much we loved the Party Crasher album and Wilhelm Scream being like the absolute best. So I shouted her out after I stopped recording, but I forgot to put it on the show. Now, since we talked about, I can't believe he knows my friends Capgun Suicide, and they just released this music. And so they're never going to play another show. They're never going to put this out on CD or anything like that. But I went to the Capgun Suicide Bandcamp page, downloaded it, and I'm going to play it for you right now. Here's a track from their final 3-song demo EP, whatever you want to call it, from 2007, just mixed and mastered here in 2019 by Thaddeus Moore here in Eugene, and I'm a big fan of it. So here's Capgun Suicide.
Cigarettes, another shot of cyanide.